Hello and welcome. I'm Nick Gibson and I'm joined by Dave King, Senior Product Manager at Cadence, to explore the industrial metaverse and the use of digital twins. Dave, welcome.
Hi, Nick.
So the industrial metaverse, what is a digital twin and how are digital twin technologies being used in data centers?
So a digital twin is a full replica of the data center in the digital space. So that includes all of the information about all of the assets, all of the equipment within the data center, but also replicates the physical behavior of the data center. So the physical behavior of the cooling system, the physical behavior of the power system, and that allows data center operators to really get an understanding of how their data center is working today, but also an insight into how it's going to be working in the future, whether that's with plan changes coming down the pipe in the next week or complete technology refreshes in the next 6 months, 2 or 3 years. It really allows them to look out into the future to understand how changes are going to impact their business.
So is this something that everyone's doing? Is it something that more and more people are doing? And if so, what do people need to do to start employing digital twins?
Yeah, so it's definitely something that is growing. So we've seen over the last 5 years a real sort of steady growth in the uptake of digital twins in the data center industry, but also the interest in the digital twin. So we've got, and I think that's kind of comes down to the confluence of a few different factors. So the increasing densities required by machine learning applications and other GPU enabled applications that's putting stress on existing data center facilities, but then the sort of orthogonal pressure or the opposite pressure of energy efficiency that essentially hasn't necessarily really been on the radar of most data center operators. If you'd asked them honestly, they would have said, yeah, we do care a little bit, but it's resilience that we're really interested in. Whereas now with legislation coming in from various authorities and the just general lack of power, using energy more efficiently is a real key driver for them. So being able to maximize their use of space is something that's really driving the adoption of digital twins. In case of what an operator needs to do, well, they need to build a digital twin. So that would come from a consultant or a software vendor like ourselves to sort of build that using their existing documentation and data for their site. And this is one of the other great benefits of a digital twin. It also acts as a validation of all that knowledge that the operator has about their site. You put it into the digital world to create a replica using that data, and then you do a process which you compare the output of the real world with the output of the digital world, and if they don't match, there's a gap in your knowledge. And of course, if you're running a critical system and there's a gap in your knowledge, any hole in your knowledge is going to be an opportunity for a really big failure. And if things don't react the way you're expecting, then people can make mistakes, people can panic. So that's a real benefit from just the introduction of the digital twin. And then once that's constructed, it needs to be integrated in with the ecosystem of other tools that the operator has that measure data about their data center, that they use for planning changes, whether that's a ticketing system or something else, so that the digital twin can be ingesting all of that data, doing simulations predicting the effect of change, and then if required, pushing the output of that data either back to the operators for assessment or back into other systems for further decisions to be made within that sort of automated ecosystem.
Is there enough in the way of interconnectivity? Because there's certainly, talking to a lot of people, interconnectivity between various devices, various data sources, etc., sort of externally, but also internally across your whole system. Is interconnectivity a problem? And if it is, how do you go about making sure everything is, all the data is pretty seamless in terms of reporting and governance?
So that is a challenge, and I think that is there are legacy systems, there are security concerns, there are different manufacturers speaking slightly different languages, although in most cases there are standard protocols, but not everyone, not everything uses the same language. So that is a challenge. So we've built tools that can aggregate data from different places, and we also talk to other tools that do the same. So there's quite a few different players in the market who've seen this problem and are starting to aggregate data together and put it into one place, and then it just comes down to usually the biggest challenge is overcoming the interconnectedness and making sure that systems can talk to each other, they're on the same network, or if they aren't on the same network, that we can come up with a way of working that is scalable and workable for the operators.
Collaboration and remote collaboration, one of the key benefits of a digital twin. How have you found that? Do you find that people are using the sort of remote collaboration possibilities, or is it more of a sort of internal closed circuit?
Absolutely, people are using this sort of remote collaboration idea. So we have a customer who during the pandemic, they were also going through a planned migration of 6 data centers down into 2, and they were able to essentially the IT operation staff were able to work remotely and plan all of those changes while still working from home. So they were able to still go ahead with that project without having to be on site and co-located together. So those, and I think that's a really good, great example of the kind of benefits that having this kind of technology can bring to an organization, that even in the tightest of circumstances, it really allows people to keep working together and to plan those changes in a critical system, but without necessarily having to be together to do that work.
You mentioned a sort of standard and governance a bit earlier. Yes, there is a sort of universal standard. Is regulation coming, and is there more regulation and reporting needed in terms of ESG and in the environmental impact?
So that isn't a subject that I'm an expert on, but what I do know is that in various regions there are going to be, and in some cases are, regulations coming around the environmental governance of data centers, and there is definitely, and it's surprising for me because I've worked in the data center industry for 15 years, and usually no one knows anything about it. And then seeing articles in the mainstream press over the last year or two talking about the energy consumption of data centers, it's clearly on the radar of the more mainstream press and mainstream politicians. So I think it's an inevitability that there will be more regulation around that. What that looks like and what that reporting is going to be, I don't think we really know yet, but that's certainly something that is on the radars of most data center operators. And that was kind of, I don't know if you saw the Uptime Institute survey that came out a couple of days ago, but that was something that they really highlighted as clear in everyone's mind that it's something that they're going to need to start thinking about.
So the use of digital twins across industry, is it a matter, and are you finding that it's a matter of people wanting to employ this technology for sort of their existing and ongoing processes and operations, or is it a matter of people now looking to the future and basically trying to virtually design a new data center and the processes involved before they actually physically build it? So is it design or is it sort of current use deployment at the moment?
So actually, we've been involved in design for 10-15 years, and I think this kind of technology has become a de facto standard in the design and build of data centers. What's new is that it's now transferring over into operations, and actually what we see is it's the older facilities that get the most out of this technology to begin with, because they're the ones that are farthest away in terms of design from the current technology that's being deployed within them. So and obviously they've had longer for things to slip and for capacity to be stranded in various areas. So definitely it's the older facilities that get the most immediate benefit out of it. But obviously, starting as you mean to go on is going to get you to a better place than having to scramble to get better after 10 years or so. So we also see that, you know, people are now having experience of improving existing facilities and then saying, okay, well, we should be putting this into our process for when we design and build new ones and taking it on into operations on day one.
So the use of metaverse technologies in industry, like digital twins, it needs a lot of power, especially in a data center, I would very much imagine. So where is the power needed? Is it needed in the energy, or is it needed in the computing power? And if so, is that going to be a barrier to greater use of digital twins in the future, given the amount of sheer power, not least computing power, that's going to be needed with future developments?
So actually, for a data center digital twin, the amount of computing power it's not insignificant, but compared with some of the other applications that are being supported in the data center, it's actually quite small. So I don't see that as being an issue for the deployment of data center digital twins. Now, when we're talking about the wider metaverses and you know, looking at much larger, you know, implementations of that around more than just a single building or that kind of thing, then yes, obviously there are going to be energy implications for those kind of applications. But I think at the data center level, it's a small portion of the other compute that's going to be going on and being supported in that data center anyway.
Management across all industries and businesses face increasing challenges within their own business, but also from external influences, with all kinds of regulation and process and internal developments, etc. So would you say, do you think that more investment in digital twin technologies and the like is needed in order for management to maintain oversight and proper governance?
Yes, I think I would agree with that statement. Having the digital twin technology gives visibility onto lots of different metrics that simply wouldn't be visible in any other way. And we've seen with our customers that once they've deployed the technology, then certain things that they had to report on for various bits of governance, whereas it would take weeks to collect the information, it was just a quick report that they could run from the system, and also gives them new metrics to start looking at how well their data centers are performing today and then in the future. So I think it's definitely the kind of technology that's going to help with all of those governance and management. The other thing that I think, and this occurred to me again, when I was reading the Uptime Institute in report, because 4 out of 5 of the people who had experienced an outage said that it probably could have been avoided with better management and processes. And that's the kind of thing we also see with our technology, partly because people see the data in a more intuitive form. You can see it in, being able to see things in 3 dimensions, and how they're connected obviously is better than looking at an Excel spreadsheet. But also the capabilities of being able to simulate failure scenarios, simulate failure conditions, and almost train people that when things fail, this is what you should expect to happen, and giving people more situational awareness so that they're not so much left in panic mode and reacting to changes, means that they're able to make better decisions and are less likely to have a failure, basically.
Well, I think you've provided us with a lot of insight and first-hand direct experience, Dave. I do appreciate your time. Our time is up, unfortunately, but thank you so much for your time and your expertise, and in sharing this. It is something and an issue and a technology that's going to grow in importance in coming years. So thank you very much indeed for your time. I do appreciate it, and I wish you well in your future endeavours.
Thanks very much, Nick. It was nice to talk to you. Cheers.